Hey everyone, welcome back to the Global Fair webinar series, and it's great to have you all here with us again today. I'm Kendall from Hired, and I'll be kicking things off before we dive into From Good to Great, Mastering Your Resume, Interview, and Personal Brand with Mafalda from Solvay. Before we get started, let's warm things up a bit. Try to familiarize where the chat is. So if you can type in the chat, I have a question. If you can type in there what kind of role or field you're most excited to apply for or interested in. Maybe you don't know, and that's okay too. You can write you're unsure or still up in the air. But now you know where the chat is. So use that throughout the session today. Amazing. Great. All right, let's get into it. I think Mafalda is ready to share some insider advice on how to make your resume pop, be confident in your interviews, and really own your personal brand. So Mafalda, thank you for being here today, and Solvay for joining us. And I would like to hand the word over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kendall, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Mafalda. I'm a talent acquisition partner at Solvay. Before we start with the presentation, and I know you are all here to get to know a little bit better about how you can build your CV, how you can prepare for an interview, but I would just like to give you a few words about the company. Solvay is a company within the chemical industry, and we've been around for 160 years now, so it's a long time, and we are here to stay. Though that we can promise for sure. Um, and in terms of what can I share as well that could be interesting to you to know from the beginning. So regarding Solvay, one of our main, if you look on the website, you'll see that one of our main focuses at the moment is both sustainability and revamping our industry. So we're thinking about generations, and that's our main goal. And you'll learn more about the company once you also follow us, as you can see here in the presentation. But that's just an introduction about the company, and sure you'll get to know more about it once we speak also in the virtual booth afterwards. So I'll just start with the first slide here. From good to great, how to nail your next interview. So you know that, of course, you are already aware of what is your profile, you know what are your skills, but they need to be translated into a resume, okay? And so that's why we want to show you how to build a good resume. First of all, let you know that usually when you send out a resume to a company, it will be most likely received by either HR department or talent acquisition department, as it happens at Solvay. What does this mean? It means that when you try to, or when you write your CV and you try to portray what are your skills, they should try to be you should try to be very direct and concise on what you're right. It should be understandable also for people who are outside the field of expertise. And so this is why I'm mentioning this, because it will usually go through TA first, and then it will be discussed with the hiring management team, who are the technical experts. Now we are trying to, or we'll try to understand what are the do's and don'ts, okay? And I have a practice case for you. So I will be showing you in the next slide. And I didn't mention at the beginning, but I'm happy to take questions along the way. So if you want to write them in a chat or any comments you'd like to share, it would be great. So moving to the practice case. You'll see here we display 3 types of resumes, okay? And I would like to know, if you want to share with me in the chat, what do you think about these resumes? Do they look to you as interesting resumes, depending on the field? Of course, there are no, I wouldn't say there is no CV that is totally correct at the one format that you should use. But of course, there are things you can work on. So I would like to hear your comments in the chat if you want to share. I'm already moving to the next slide while you're writing the chat. In the meantime, if you want to guess what things could be improved or not. So I see that I have okay. I already can see the answers. Um, the third one is most professionals. Others don't look very professional, very colorful. Probably won't be read by ATS. Difficult to read. It should be simple and straightforward. ATS. Yeah, we'll be talking about that as well. So some of the things you mentioned are quite interesting. You already have a good idea of what is a better format to use compared to others. Of course, we also need to understand the industry we're applying to. Maybe if we talk about the chemical industry, if you have a CV that has a lot of graphs, a lot of colors, it may be too much perhaps. So that should be taken into consideration. And some people say the third one seems to be most comprehensible. Indeed, let's just go back a little bit. Because of course, when you compare to the others, it is much straightforward. The information there, I can see it more organized, and so for sure, out of the three, the third one would be the best to use. But again, there is no perfect format. About ATS, maybe we can speak about that a little bit later, because I think there are some things that well, different companies work with different ATSs, and there are, I believe, some misinformation in the internet that if you send out some type of CV that the ATS won't read it, usually you have someone behind it. You have a person, a human, also checking them, and so we take that. We try to look at the profile as well, not only the CV itself. Okay, just to tell that there are some myths about the ATS part. Okay, perfect. So I'll move ahead to the don'ts. So let's start with the more negative parts, so to say. The photos are not necessary. Okay, so if you don't feel comfortable, you don't need to share your photo. Of course, if you do, it should be a bit more professional. Avoid using more than one or two pages, but of course depends on what is your experience, because if you bring already a lot of years of experience, you should also portray that knowledge into your CV. But usually keep it 1 to 2, because of course when you apply to a position, there will be perhaps 100 or 200 applicants as well for that one position. As you were saying perfectly in the chat, avoid an extensive color palette for the visuals and graphics, and ensure and also because this ensures readability. So that's one of the main reasons. List with bullet points if possible. It helps visually for the recruiter, the talent acquisition partner, to check everything. And when speaking or when mentioning your language skills, which nowadays is so important to work in an international market, try to use words like fluent, native, conversational, and not necessarily those graphs where you or sometimes we see even stars or bullet points on the side of the language that you mentioned, that is not so comprehensible, and it may lead us to a false information. So try to use those type of words. Okay, moving to the next slide, understanding the do's. So we already mentioned some. Okay, using bullet points for readability is quite important. Also consider adding a section for projects or volunteer work. And why do I mention this? Because we want to usually people in HR, but also the managers want to understand what are you also besides your academic background, besides what you've studied. So we want to get to know the person, and this is why we advise to add that. Apply with the PDF version. Again, speaking about what is it ATS friendly, indeed PDF version is better. Sometimes if you apply with a document, with a Word document, it will not be lost, but it will probably take some more time to open. So it is best to use the PDF version. Try to regularly update your resume. You will most certainly add new knowledge to your CV, add new workshops, new skills, and so it's really good to mention that in your curriculum. Display your contact information, of course, so we can contact you, but you can limit that to the city where you are based. Share your academic background and experience, and if possible, adapt your CV to the requirements of the specific job you're applying for. And why did we add that? I think that one is very important on the do's, okay? Just because sometimes we receive CVs that are just a standard CV, and that's okay up to a certain point. But if you're really eager, then you want that one job position, it is good if you can have some keywords that relate to the job, what is in the job description, have them in bold as well. So a little bit that we can see that you adapted as well to the job you're applying to because you're really interested in it. Okay, so that's why we mentioned this as a do and as a tip for you. And okay, this is also very important about organizing the contact. You will see, and maybe you have already seen some CVs on the internet. You've already built yours probably, and usually the chronological one is the one we see most. So you write your most recent experience on the top, and then you go down to what is your oldest experience, plus your academic background and projects, as we were mentioning. But there are some people who already, and maybe this is for people who already have more experience, they've done so many jobs throughout their lives that it makes more sense to put it in a functional way. So the chronological part is very important always to have recent at the top and then oldest at the bottom, but you can also do it functional. Let's say you did a transition in your job. You started in IT and now you are in procurement, for example. And so you can organize it depending on what has been your main focus throughout your career. Um, I'm just reading one message that came along. When I want to show my proficiency in tools like Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Figma, instead of using those skill dots, what could you recommend including on CV? About skill dots, I believe you meant. Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying, because of course, and this is a good question because what we spoke before is more about the languages. Usually, you see those skill dots beside languages, and we try to, as I mentioned before, we think it's best to use word like function, like conversational, fluent, etc. For those type of areas, you could this is my opinion, okay, there is no right answer, but it could be experienced or intermediate, for example. But indeed, for profiles that where we have skills such as these ones, skill dots could be more interesting compared to languages. But again, you will probably, Nicole, know that better than I do because you're from the field. But we try to recommend that you use words like this could be experienced, could be, as I said, intermediate knowledge. So that would be my recommendation. Okay. Moving ahead. So going back to the CV, and as at this point you already know what is a good format, what are the do's and don'ts, and what should be the structure. And now you need to know, okay, but I have this document, how can I use it? So where do I apply? You'll have job boards, you have job fairs, such as this one. You can also submit it to a recruitment agency. Also through of course LinkedIn. I believe it's one of the main platforms nowadays. And if you are starting your career, it could be through internship, apprenticeship platforms that you see online that could also better work in your country, in your market. It will again, and this is interesting because there is never a right answer. You also need to understand what is the market you want to apply to or where you are located at and what works best. But we've seen that so far LinkedIn is one of the main platforms, and it's also where we source a lot. So, and we'll speak about that later. If you can have it always updated, it would be fantastic. Um, Perfect. So this was the first part of the presentation about building a CV. I'm just looking at the chat to see if there are any other comments or questions about this first part before I move to the second part on how to prepare for a job interview. So I'll just give 5 seconds to see if some messages come up in the chat. Okay, I believe not for now. So let's move to how to prepare for a job interview. So at this moment we are at good. Remember at the beginning we said going from good to great. So we are at good because we know how to build a CV, but we want to go to great. And how do we achieve that? We need to prepare for the job interview. It's a moment where you'll display or where you'll present what is written in your curriculum. So one of the main topics, or I will be focusing on, is both researching the company and learning about the job you're applying to. So at this moment, you've already prepared your CV, you crafted your CV. You maybe when you've done that, you already had in place or you had it in mind. This is the industry I'm applying to, or that I want to target. But within an industry, you can find a lot of companies, and when you are applying for a certain company, it is important to go to the interview and already gather some knowledge. For example, I can tell you that when we do interviews at Solvay, we are, and I think I speak for my team as well, we're very happy when we have candidates that align with our values and they mention that they've already seen what we're doing in terms of sustainability, that we're thinking about future generations, that we are also and going back to sustainability, finding ways to produce energy that are better for the world, while still having our business going. And so it is good when you don't need to learn about any figures or data, but it is good when you bring that information to the interview and you show interest, for sure. And about the company culture, that you can learn a little bit while searching on the website, on our official website, but we as recruiters will also give you an idea of that in the first conversation. Good. So moving to the next slide, researching the position. Okay, you've researched the company. Now you also need to learn about the job description. And I will link this to the CV because, as I said before, if you remember, it is good that when you craft your CV, if possible, and I know this gives a lot of work, but if possible, to adapt it a little bit to what is the job description of the job you're applying to. So you will look at the job description, identify the key skills, what is the job description asking from me in terms of experience, of qualifications. Even if I don't have the whole 5, 6, 7 years of experience, but I have the skills, and how can I show them better in the CV? And so that's why I'm linking to the first part of the presentation, because I think it's very important to have these both connected. And also when you go to the interview, um, recruiters tend to ask, what was your understanding of the job description? Why did it make sense to you to apply? And so you you cannot just say I was very motivated and that's it. That's also good. It's good to see motivation, but it's good also when you bring examples to better see that you understand the company, you understand the job description, that you are very interested in it. And so that's one of our main tips, that you do your own research. Moving ahead, use the star method. So this is also, I think, I would say, you see it a lot on LinkedIn. If you, maybe I see it more because I'm in the field, but this is a trendy thing to speak about the star method. But I can assure you or guarantee that it works. Okay, so when you are structuring what you want to talk, let's say, for example, me as a recruiter ask you a question and you want to give me an example, you will be doing or telling a story. And when you tell a story, it is good for the other person who has never heard of it, that you try to bring a structure. So don't feel very pressured or stressed during the interview to remember, okay, I'm telling the situation, then what I did, then the action, then the result. This is not the goal. Okay, just have in mind that when you're speaking about something that you know very well but the other person doesn't know about, they need to fully understand the context better, then what you've done to make it well, and then what was the outcome. So let's say, for example, I ask you about a more challenging situation that you faced at university or in your first experience, and so you'll give me the context, what happened, where you were working at. Then what people asked you to do. So let's say, for example, a report, and then the steps you took. So you gathered information, you spoke with different teams, you prepared the Excel file, and then at the end, what was the result? Were you able to support the company with more data through that report? Were you able to support other teams? Did you also grow in terms of knowledge? Uh, I'm just giving you a quick example for you to understand what is this famous star method, okay? But don't feel pressured about it during the interview, just to have this in mind while explaining some examples. And then prepare for the frequently asked questions. I'll say that at Solvay we try not to have the where do you see yourself in 5 years sort of question, okay? We understand that is an old-fashioned question, but there are always questions that will come along that are needed for us to better understand what is your profile. One of them is, what is your motivation? Why did you apply for this position? And here again, have the job description in mind is very important. What are your main strengths and areas for improvements? You should of course focus on what are your strengths, what are your skills, for sure. So you need, this is also a pitch, so you need to sell yourself, but also be, I would say, maybe the correct word could be humble, in the sense that you understand there are things you still need to learn and you still need to improve, and you will see that as a strength. Okay, we want to see what you really are, not that you are already 100% perfect. We understand that there are always points of improvement. We all have that at Solvay as well, even if you are at a very high role in the organization. So we also want to learn more about you in terms of areas of improvement and your strengths. And why did you choose this line of study? This happens a lot with people who are starting their career. Okay, maybe I would say this question is not doesn't come so often for people who have more experience. But if you're starting, yes, we want to understand why did you start with engineering? For example, maybe you will feel at the beginning, well, at the time it was the only thing I knew, but now after those 5 or 4 years of being at university, I really understood that this is what I want to do for the future. So be honest on that, and this is just to get to know what is your passion, and where do you see yourself in the future. Okay, moving ahead. Be ready to ask questions at the end of the interview. So now, let's say we started the interview. You portrayed what is your knowledge. You spoke about yourself. I asked you some questions. So we are more than good now. We are achieving great. But at the end, when I ask you, do you have any questions before we finish this interview? And you tell me, no, I don't have any. It's not a good sign. Okay, I won't say red flag, I don't like that type of word, but it's not a good sign, just because it is good to see in the candidate side that you are interested in the company, as we were mentioning before. You don't need to leave all the questions at the end. We can have a conversation and you'll ask me questions while we speak together, but it is good that you are interested in what the company is doing, and not only the company, but where you will be in terms of team, in terms of department. And also, this is a tip I would give you, and you'll learn this while you do more interviews. This is not something you'll learn at the first interview you'll do, but is to better tail or shape the questions you want to do, either for HR, talent acquisition, and for the manager. There are some questions that maybe about corporate culture, about the company itself, that could be more towards HR or talent acquisition. And on the other hand, if you're having a conversation with the management team, they are expecting that you ask more about the team, about your daily tasks, about the projects for the future, and how you can also contribute to the team's dynamic. So this is a two-way street. It means that I'm interested in your profile, but I want to see that you're interested in us as well. And so it's always a two-way street, as I said. So on top of being ready for the questions we'll ask you, also be ready and bring some questions with you. And now, after the interview, it is always nice to send a thank you email. I'm not saying this is mandatory. We've hired a lot of people who are amazing profiles and they didn't send a thank you email. So don't be so pressured about it. But it's nice. It's a way to appreciate the time of the recruiter, of the manager, to hear more about you. So it's a good thing. Clarify any answers. So don't be shy if there are things that you didn't understand during the interview that you want to ask more about. You can always send us an email or call us to clarify some things. Not only questions, but maybe after the interview, you're thinking, okay, I could have said that better. How can I say that? How can I explain better? Because at the moment I was feeling pressure and I couldn't really show what I wanted. You can always clarify it afterwards. And follow up with the recruiter. We try to I would say always give feedback. So there are some processes that can take a little bit more, but we will always tell you feedback throughout the way. Maybe even if it's to tell you, okay, we don't have an answer at this moment for you, but we are working on it, and you're still being considered for the job. In other cases, when things go really great, then things go fast, and we keep you engaged every week about the process. But so this is something we really advocate at Solvay, is to give feedback to the candidate and give personalized feedback if you've already gone throughout the whole process, okay? Because we understand the time you spent with us and we want to value that. Um, Moving to the next slide. Okay, so this is the third part. And before I speak about your personal branding, on how to develop your personal branding, I'll just go to the chat because I see I have a question. During my research, I came across an interesting question. What has kept you at the company until today? Is this a great question? For sure. I mean, I'm suspicious. I'm speaking as Mafalda, the TA partner, maybe not as Solvay, specifically for this question, but I really like it because I've had questions in which candidates have told me or have asked me, um, I don't want. They said, I don't want to ask you directly about the corporate culture. I want to know from you, how do you feel working there? What has kept you there? And I appreciate this. This is a moment where both of us during the interview, we relax and we say, okay, let's speak more closely. And this is also very good to engage because of course the first part of the interview is usually more professional, but towards the end we can maybe feel more comfortable speaking about these topics. Yeah, I see my colleague Sophia, she mentions agree. It's a great question. So you see that I'm not alone on that. In it will you as a candidate, you will see at the moment how sincere the person is by giving you that answer. I think it is impossible not to give a sincere answer when you are questioned that. So yeah, for sure. Good. So again, summing up what we discussed until now. So first of all, CV. Second of all, interview. Third one, developing your personal branding. And so that's what we are going to tackle yet. This is just a sentence we've had here to better show you what is personal branding. I'll just read this one and then don't worry, I won't read the other slides. I'll keep on talking. Personal branding is the appropriation of marketing concepts usually used for corporate branding by a self-employed individual. It consists in promoting one's profile to the greatest number of people on the basis of self-management skills or competencies, particularly when looking for a job or clients for a self-employed person. So this is basically translated, how can you better show who you are to the right audience? And that's what we're going to speak about in the next slide and the next slides. So we'll be talking about how to define your personal identity. and this is more maybe more of a uh, philosophical sort of exercise, because you already know who you are, you know what you are motivated about, you know your passions, or you're still learning, but that's okay, but you already have an idea of who you are. But again, how do you translate that to other people? So you kind of need to sit with yourself and think, okay, what are my skills? What are the things that are valued the most? What are my passions? And how do I determine my personal and professional goals? Um, you don't need to have all of this in mind just now. Again, don't feel pressured about it, but it's good that you take a moment just to think better about this, maybe write it down. So once you start building your personal brand, you can better translate it to others. Understand your audience, again, knowing uh, where you mostly want to apply to. Let's say it's the chemical industry, I hope, because we're talking about Solvay. So you need to understand what is your target on the audience, potential employers, industry peers, um, and understand their needs and references. Example for Solvay, maybe one of our needs is to have people who are eager um, to support in the change that we're having at the moment, like revamping our industry, make it more digitalized, finding ways to still have our business in place, but keep the world or again, going to the main word of the day, sustainability, finding sustainable solutions. That's what I wanted to say. And so if you see that you align with that in terms of values, and you also have the skills, and that's what you want to focus on, you are already good to go, because you understand who you are in terms of personal and professional profile, and what are the needs of the industry you're applying to. And expand your network. I need to reinforce this a lot, really, because I think that finding other people, and LinkedIn can be good for that, finding other people that have the same the same values as you, the same background as you. It also helps because you can see what they've done in their careers, so you can always check the people's profiles and see, oh, they started maybe as trainees here, but then they got into a more professional role. How did they do this? And so you kind of do your own research of what is going on in the market, but also you don't feel shy to adding that people to your network, speaking with them, approaching them. I think that's very, very important. And build an online presence. Again, linking to LinkedIn. I'm focusing a little bit on LinkedIn, but of course, job fairs such as this one, other events can be very good to expand your network. So LinkedIn is the main platform indeed, but depending on your on the market where you're at, you can also see what works best. But for us recruiters, again, it's really good if you have your LinkedIn profile updated, if you leverage your social media platforms, because if you have it all the information there, you'll pop up more in our search when we're sourcing. We'll better understand what you do currently and what are your goals for the future. That can also be described in the LinkedIn description. And so that's what we advise, so that you again so that you not only have a good profile, but you can show that to others in the job market. Just a quick thing about the social media platforms. Of course, depending on the industry, LinkedIn can work better for some industries, but for example, there are other platforms. I'm thinking here we mentioned Instagram or Pinterest, maybe for visual content creators. But for example, we have some IT roles where we receive along with the CV, we receive the GitHub um, link for us to check their project. So just keep that in mind, that there are other platforms that could be interesting to you if you are in a very specific industry, let's say IT, let's say visual and content creation. Okay, so this is also a little bit up to you when doing that research. And monitor and adjust your brand, track your progress and engagement, be open to feedback and adapt, stay updated on the industry trends, and improve your skills. Those are the main things that we advise you to do. Um, what do we mean by that? In terms of progress and engagement, we mentioned, for example, using analytical tools. You can find that on LinkedIn to better see if the post you did had a better engagement, for example. But maybe at the beginning that could be too much. So let's stay simple. And first of all, just be open to feedback. If you receive feedback from recruiters and you believe it makes sense to use that feedback, adapt your profile, adapt your CV, even adapt. I would say maybe you had in mind some workshop you wanted to attend or some course you wanted to attend, but while speaking with someone from HR or with a manager, you think, okay, maybe they were right. Maybe it's best that I start small and then go to that one big project I want to do. But uh, basically, I think it's all about improving your skills, and you can only improve your skills, of course, looking at your own profile and being open to feedback. I'm almost at the end, okay? So just bear with me just a little bit more. This is just one last slide to keep in touch with Solvay, focusing on maybe on most of you who are starting your careers and you want to better understand how the industry works. Starting with an internship program or an apprenticeship program, it's very good. You are guided along the way. You have a manager or a senior person there to support you, and you'll have the chance uh, to learn and also gain valuable experience that can lead you after the internship to, I wouldn't say to directly to a senior role, but a very interesting role. And the graduate program, I just want to mention that we have our flagship program, which is the engineering graduate program. This year, it is we have it every year. It's a rotational program, so you start in one country and then you move to another, and then usually you end the graduate program at the country where you started, and so you can see that you wouldn't only know better the market, um, but also the industry and how we operate in different countries. We operate in 40 countries, okay, 41 countries. You wouldn't have the chance to meet or visit all of them, but at least around 2 to 3 with this graduate program, it would be possible. So I hope this excites you. We have a video to display at the end of this presentation. So I just finished what was the third part. At this point, you are already at great. As I said at the beginning, the goal is for you to go from good to great. And I'm sure with all these tips, you'll be able to achieve great. I'm just looking at the chat to see if there are anything I can answer before we display the video. Hi, does Solvay have graduate program in marketing or any entry roles in marketing and branding? Um, the graduate program is more focused on engineering, okay, to be honest, but we do have roles in marketing and branding. I would say, to be honest, maybe it's not most of them because we are in the chemical industry, but even if you'll by looking at our career platform, you'll see that a lot of roles are within engineering. We also have other areas. We have procurement, we have finance, we have accounting, we have marketing, um, we have R&D, so we have different departments, okay? But focusing on the graduate program itself, it is more connected to engineering. Um, mm, I think we can display the video, and then if there are any other questions, I'll answer them after we see the video. I hope you enjoy it because we believe it's a very fun video that shows our main products on and how do we apply those products in the real world. So for you to have a better idea of what is our scope of work. So if you can display the video, and then I'll answer the other questions in the chat.
Essential chemistry is the invisible force behind progress, but a force whose final purpose might seem a little boring. Effervescent solutions? Boring. Tires? Boring. Yoga mat? Boring. Window? Boring. Sports shoes? Soap? Electronic devices? Coconut scented candle? Boring. 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 But a chemical miracle where sodium bicarbonate releases a burst of carbon dioxide as it stabilizes the pH with perfect precision, conjuring a light, airy, and irresistibly flavorful texture? Not boring. Of course, I'm just talking about this boring cake. But from the point of view of essential chemistry, everything's exciting. And doing it all while having DEI commitment and environmentally friendly solutions? Not boring at all. If essential chemistry isn't called boring chemistry, it's because it's essential, not boring.
Great, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I still see there are 2 questions. I'll answer them. But I hope that gave you a good idea of what is our scope, and that sometimes chemistry may seem boring, but it is not when you see the applications on the real world. Question from Rebecca: how does Solvay typically support participants in transitioning from one program to another, for example, from internship to graduate roles? I would say they are 2 different things, because usually when you join the company, you either start with an internship or you start with a graduate program. Okay, but what I can tell you is that if you start with either one of these programs, for example, the graduate program is already made or established with a goal for you to stay in the company, because we bet a lot on new grads, and we want them to stay at the company for the future. In terms of internships as well, what I can tell is that you'll do, of course, an internship for a certain type of period, but Solvay has the policy that all internals, either trainees or other internal employees, they have the right to apply first to the jobs that we have in place. So let's say you would like to stay at the company and move from an internship to a entry-level position or mid position. You have the chance to do that in our career platform, and you will always be interviewed by the recruiter to better assess your motivation to change into this role and stay at the company. Okay, I have 1 more minute. How does Solvay provide visa sponsorship for overseas candidates if they are selected, of course? This is analyzed case by case. Okay, we do have an I said interesting because I was reading the chat, sorry. We do have a department of global mobility to support with that transition from or with that transition from one country to another. It is analyzed case by case, depending on what is the type of role, what are the needs that the management has for that certain role. So I cannot just maybe give you a direct answer, but we do have global mobility. We do have a policy for that. And so we can support with that in certain type of roles. Do you have any ops in France? I did operations internships in Stellantis. With France is not my main scope, so I would need to check in the career platform if we currently have operation internships at the moment. But I know that one of the countries that opens more internships is France, for sure. Another one is Portugal, where I'm based. But we do have internships in several countries within the group. So, okay, I think I'm right on top of the time. I just want to thank everyone that asked questions in the chat, that bared with me throughout the presentation. And Kendall, please go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Mafalda. That was excellent insight. So to close off, thanks Mafalda and Solvay for taking the time to lead this session and share practical tips and engage with the audience, answer their questions. Really means a lot. And thank you to the audience for joining. Practice the STAR framework for the interviews. I ask relevant questions tailored to the person that is interviewing you, and strive to find activities that will expand your network. As alluded to in the presentation, it is a process, and I hope you walked away with a couple things that you can continue to practice and get yourself ready for the interview process. Viewers, on that note, don't go away, because up next at 1 o'clock, we're jumping into another session with Amazon. Unlock your path to be an Amazon SDE. So go grab a quick coffee, and I will see you back here in just a couple minutes. Thank